Welcome to Taking the High Road, a special show dedicated to the trucking industry, specifically at the confluence of recruiting, retention, and compliance. In the fourth year as the host of this show, I bring over 2 decades of industry experience, both on the carrier side as well as the vendor side. And each week I interview industry experts and thought leaders who bring their insight to the driver lifecycle as we discuss the industry's greatest challenges. I always appreciate your feedback, good or bad. Don't forget to leave a rating and a review. I'd also like to thank and highlight the show's valuable sponsors. Their dedication and commitment to the industry and to the show are greatly appreciated. If you're interested in being a sponsor of the show or joining me for an interview, please email jeremy@takingthehigherroad.com. This week, I'm honored to be joined by an incredible friend and passionate leader whose mission is to promote trucking, especially to a younger, largely untapped workforce, Lindsey Trent, president and co-founder of Next Generation in Trucking. Thank you for joining me again, Lindsey.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Well, I say again, because you've joined me on this show now for the 4th time. And every year that I've had the show, and in fact, every year since you founded Next Generation in Trucking with your co-founder, Dave Dine, I'd love to share with the audience what Next Generation in Trucking is all about, how and why it came to be, how it's grown over the last few years. Perhaps you can share how our audience can get more involved, whether that's through membership alone or through sponsorship or both. I'd love to hear what your expectations are for this year and beyond. And I'd also like to know what role, if any, NextGen is playing in the current Safe Driver Apprenticeship pilot program. And then lastly, we'll answer a question from a listener during our deeper dive segment. Does that work for you?
Sounds great.
All right. Well, every episode, I start the dialogue with a book recommendation. Is there anything you can share with the audience, something that you've read that's been impactful to you?
Yeah, so I think the book Atomic Habits is a great classic, and just making the right choices. And when you start to have habits, it becomes easy. It becomes second nature. So reading Atomic Habits is a great one to reach your goals.
I think I've got that one on my bookshelf somewhere around here behind me. These are real books, by the way. Sometimes people ask me if that's like fake wallpaper or something. But yeah, no, I agree. That's a great book because you start getting you simple baby steps and you get into, and they form habits. And now you do it, consistently. So excellent suggestion. You're not the first one that's brought that one up. And I think it's been one that I've highlighted in favorite books of the year that I read, a couple of years ago. So excellent choice. Since you've joined me on the show a number of times already, I'll try not to repeat some of those standard questions, about you and your background, which I'm incredibly familiar with since, given our work history together going back a dozen years. I was thinking about that, and it's been, I think it was 2012 when we first worked together. That's been a while, but just to spare the audience that, because I would encourage them instead to go listen to some of the previous interviews that we've had together. I'll start with Next Generation in Trucking. Could you share with the audience what is Next Generation in Trucking?
Well, working in driver staffing and then going to work for Ryder, I had a conversation every single day about the workforce shortages. It was always the problem, right? The driver shortage, the aging workforce. And then when I started working for Ryder, same thing, but it was about diesel mechanics, and they need diesel mechanics. So thinking, what are we doing as an industry? What if we came together cohesively to come up with a solution and really work on getting an education, helping young people, helping parents to see what the trucking industry is all about, and trying to make changes and get career technical education programs for trucking. You can study plumbing and be an electrician and welding in high schools. Why can't we study professional driving? And so that's exactly what we started to do, is really dive deep into the education world and see where we were lacking, and then starting to put efforts in there to be involved in organizations, work with teachers. Hey, I just got off the phone with another school, this one in the state of Washington, that wants to start a trucking program. And so we walk schools through the process of how to start a trucking program.
Well, that's a really big deal, but you had a comfortable job, right? I think you had a comfortable job raising a family, young family, and, obviously there's a systemic problem that you came to realize, not just on the driver side when you were focused on the staffing in the staffing industry, but then when you got into Ryder with diesel mechanics, there's a systemic problem. We're not getting enough. The workforce is short as it is, but we're not getting enough younger new entrants into the industry. But still, that's gutsy, to leave that comfortable, steady job to become an entrepreneur and really venture into the kind of startup world to form Next Generation in Trucking Association. What do you say about that? What was the catalyst that sealed the deal for you?
We were working on this because forming a nonprofit and an association, you have to get the board of directors and the bylaws. And so I would say it took us, we were working on it for a couple of years, or at least a year and a half before we launched, and behind the scenes. But just knowing this is a huge need, one of the hugest needs in our industry. And then when I was really starting to study education in other groups, they all have these huge workforce groups that focus on education and are really pushing forth these efforts. And so there really is just so much opportunity. I love what I do every morning when I wake up. And I always thought, you know what, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to a sales job. So, hey, there you go. It's a risk, but it's a fun risk. I love it.
It's a worthy risk. I think the cause is noble. And if not you, if anyone, why not you? Right. And I think
right. I love creating things, and what we're creating is incredible. As you know, the co-founder of Next Gen, he's a high school teacher, Dave Dine. He started a high school program 7 years ago at Patterson High School. One of the big things that we're trying to do is replicate his program across the country. And so we've got schools all across the country that are starting these trucking programs, using driver simulation training, preparing that student to get their commercial learner's permit, and then going on to get their behind the wheel training. It's really introducing a young person to the industry and getting them skilled so that they want to make this their career path. And Dave even gets students that say, you know what, I want to go to college, and I'm still going to go to college, but I want to come back as an engineer in the trucking industry or a supply chain manager in the trucking industry. So they are really falling in love with trucking and the supply chain and making it their career choice.
So even if they're not, necessarily, even if they go through a program and get their CDL and they may not, continue down that path, they still may remain in the trucking industry and choose a path in that, because there's so many options, obviously.
That's right. In all the diesel tech programs across the country, what if they can graduate with a CDL? How much more marketable are they going to be? And they're going to make more money right off the gate. So preparing and doing all we can do to set up these young people for success is what it's all about. It's really helping to change family trees by giving them these skills where they can get a good job and support a family and be on the road to a successful career.
Well, now you mentioned Dave. First of all, both of you, I think, are both real change agents for the industry. How did you two meet? How did you guys connect? And then how did that grow into the co-founding of such an impactful organization?
Well, interestingly, I would say, I don't know what year it was, but I was at a conference and we were talking. I was with you and several other people. I think one of the ATA chairmen was there. We were talking and you said, well, hey, I just talked to this guy, Dave Dine, and he started a trucking program and he might be the answer. And I'm like, yes. So you gave me his number and I called him. And then Dave and I started dreaming up this idea of creating the Next Generation in Trucking Association. But Dave and I just clicked. He's a great person. He's so dedicated to what he does. And he puts so much time and energy and effort into the mission. He's incredible.
He's absolutely one of the good ones. And that is, The question I asked, it's something that I'm really proud of. I'm a huge fan of yours. When I met Dave the first time, I knew this guy's onto something, but it's sort of a cart before the horse, kind of scenario where I wasn't sure, how it would, but he was such a good, humble, genuine person that I recognized. And so anyway, I think the timing was such that when our conversation happened, I'm like, hey, you guys, you might, want to connect. And I'm so glad that happened. I think it was certainly meant to be. And just for the audience, full disclosure, I'm honored also to be on the executive board of directors for NextGen. And so naturally, I'm very supportive of the mission and really enjoy the time working together. But when you first started NextGen, it was on a part-time basis, right? I mean, you eventually left your full-time job and became the full-time president for the association. What were those early years like? I mean, how was the association grown and progressed since?
So we were 100% volunteers when we started the organization. I'm on the board of the Kentucky Trucking Association. I reside in Louisville, Kentucky. So I got a lot of support from the people in Kentucky, and then surrounding states and just partners learning about what we were doing. And so it is all about networking. But I think that the trucking industry is a tight-knit community, and people start to talk and network and hear what's going on. And membership to NextGen definitely snowballed through that and through our efforts. So we have a lot of founding members that are still with our organization and just firmly believe in what we do. And, we really started off focusing on drivers, but realized pretty quickly that we also need to focus on medium heavy duty truck technicians. We need to focus on supply chain and logistics managers. And there are high schools now across the country that are starting supply chain management programs. So all of these high schools have all of these choices on what they want to start. And they're all adding CTE programs to their curriculum. And we want them to start trucking programs to their curriculum. And so working with that, the best thing that we can do is work with an employer in their local community and meet with the school and the employer who's interested in helping this school start the trucking program, and it just snowballs from there.
Well, I know that there's a lot of support. As you said, you've got those who have been around since the beginning and been supporters, founding members and such. And I know that continues to accelerate. Just for those in the audience who don't know, how they can learn and get more involved, what would you recommend they do?
Well, you can go on our website, nextgentrucking.org. I'd love to connect with you. And we're on all socials. I'm on LinkedIn at Lindsey Trent on LinkedIn. And then our social handles are NextGen Truckers. So connect with us, and we would love your support. We're getting connected to career fairs all across the country. And what we do when we get a career fair request I just had one from Pomona, California, then we connect our member, KKW Trucking. They're right in Pomona, and they go and take a truck out there and it's so much fun to engage with students and tell them about all these jobs that are in trucking. And so our members, we get them out to career fairs. We involve them in things that we do, like the American School Counselors Association, National Convention, FFA. Do you know how many students are at the FFA convention every year, Jeremy?
You told me, and it was I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. So this past year was 72,000.
Whoa.
They all come to Indianapolis, Indiana. They're high school students, and they are amazing. We get several drivers from the national tank truck carriers. Their grand champion driver comes every year, and some of the finalists. And we're just engaging with students. Marvin Johnson, they have a driver simulator, an L3 Harris driver simulator. They bring that driver simulator. These students are standing in line and crowded around our booth. We have VR headsets where they can change the oil in a truck or change the tire on a truck on their VR headset. We're just doing career branding, getting young people excited about the trucking industry.
Yeah, that's really cool. And leveraging technology too, which, by the way, you mentioned Pomona. You're talking Pomona, California?
Yeah.
my old stomping grounds, not Pomona, but Southern California, the Pomona Fair every year was a place to be. So that was always a lot of fun.
How funny. Well, hopefully we're going to start a trucking program in Pomona. And I got an email yesterday from a mom in Pomona saying, hey, my son is 16. All he's wanted to do his whole life is to be a professional driver. And he wants to drive across the country. And so I'm like, we have got to get this young person. All they want to do is be a driver. That's what we got to do. We got to get these young people connected to these careers and help them on a road to success. This is what they want. That's
super exciting. And you, I know, I'd say within the last year, just another way for those in the audience to engage with you, to get more content from you is through a podcast. Do you mind taking a second and plugging your show?
Yeah. So we have a podcast. It's called NGT Talks. We're on all of the major podcast networks, and you can watch us on video by YouTube. Most people listen on podcast networks. In fact, I was interviewing somebody earlier today for the podcast, and we were talking about AI in recruiting. And one thing that he mentioned was skilled trade jobs are not going to be taken over by AI, but there are a lot of those college-bound jobs that are. And so we really need to promote more skilled trades, even more so. We know freight's increasing. We know we have an aging workforce. We have good jobs. We've got to promote trucking within career technical education. So I interview companies. I interview young people that are in the trucking industry. I interview career technical education teachers. I recently interviewed a 19-year-old broker who loves what he does. And we were just talking, hey, how'd you get into it? What's the first thing you bought that you're just excited about? And he pulled out his phone and showed me his amazing car that, that is what a 19-year-old could do in the trucking industry. His friends are going off to college, getting saddled with student loan debt, and he's working, loving his job.
So we've been in the midst of a challenging environment, going on a couple of years now. And I'm not sure that we see the light at the end of the tunnel quite yet, but we're sure trying to be optimistic about it being, just right around the corner. What expectations do you have for Next Gen this year and beyond? Is there anything exciting you can share?
It's such an interesting question, Jeremy, because on one hand, we are meeting with schools every single day about starting these programs. And they're excited. They want to have these offerings for their students. Then on the other hand, we have trucking companies saying, hey, we love what you're doing, but this year we can't support you because, we just don't have the funding. And I get it. So we definitely need members to come and join our association and support what we're doing, because we're a nonprofit and everything that we do supports our mission. So on that note, things are still good. We're writing some curriculums. We're actually getting ready to write a zero EV. So our zero emission vehicle curriculum, just educating young people about infrastructure and all the different kinds of power out there. And so we're doing things like that. We are going to apply for some grants to help fund school programs. And so we'll apply for grants and then give the money to schools, give the money for CDL training, really trying to think outside the box to help fund these programs.
And there's money there, right? Kind of to your point. It's probably not easy to get, but it's there.
It is there. So some of these, with the Department of Labor, is it going to go to, cybersecurity? Is it going to go to woodworking, or is it going to go to trucking? And so we're trying to get things established where this money for pre-apprenticeships will go to trucking, will go to schools to help them start programs.
So speaking of pre-apprenticeships, I've long been an advocate of the concept of reducing the minimum, interstate CDL driver age from 21 to 18. And it's received a lot of bipartisan support in DC for a number of years, but it just seems to be like in this wait and see position especially now that there's a pilot program underway. I'm curious, if Next Gen is involved, or what Next Gen's involvement is in that Safe Driver Apprenticeship pilot program. And is And or is NextGen working with any of the fleets who are involved in that program?
Yeah. So, in fact, we just had a meeting with the FMCSA a couple of weeks ago, and we had a lot of major players on there. And they're really wanting to get more carriers involved. So if you're interested in maybe learning about the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program or applying for it, you can reach out to us and we'll help you through the process. My email is lindsey@nextgentrucking.org, and my name's spelled Lindsey. So we're really pushing with the FMCSA, trying to do more marketing, try to get more carriers involved. Ruan just hired their first apprentice in the program. And so a lot of the carriers that are in it are, family owned, couple hundred trucks that are doing a great job. Newspom's doing a great job. Garner Trucking is doing a great job. Rail Transport, they're doing a great job. But we need to get more people involved. We've got to start training young people and giving them pathways. A lot of times this is what they want to do, and we're just setting them up for success. And when we do that, they're going to be loyal for the company that trained them, that's in their backyard, and they're going to want to work for your company for years to come, hopefully, right? So it's a great investment, and we need the research. We need the numbers to know, is an 18-year-old that's been properly trained is in an apprenticeship program just as safe as a 24-year-old that just decides they want to get their CDL? And that's why we're trying to create these safety training programs in high schools to really increase the amount of training hours for young people.
Well, you rattled off a list of a few names who I'm really familiar with, who are really great companies in the industry. A couple of them I work closely with Driverreach. Do you know how many drivers are in this program to date? Because the maximum, right, they were looking for up to 3,000. Are we even, we're nowhere near that number. Are we even in triple digits yet?
Not even triple digits yet. But I do think that we're starting to get momentum, and hopefully in the next 3 to 4 months, we can get into triple digits. We're trying to do some focus stories with the FMCSA to help, get to promote some of those carriers that are having success, because you don't have to be a huge carrier to be in this program. You can be a family-owned carrier. It's just a matter of, following some things, getting your insurance to approve. And insurance does approve this. Insurance are some of the people that put that Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot together, saying we commit to being behind this program and to ensuring these young people that are going to be a part of this program.
Well, it sounds like you got a sneak peek to the deeper dive question, because it actually references the concept of hiring younger drivers and the concern about insurance providers. But I will say, first of all, it seems like the FMCSA is really supportive of this, but wants the data, because we've been talking about this, I want to say it's been a year and a half at least, and we've made little to no progress, seemingly. I know we're getting momentum, but it's a process, and hopefully they don't run out of patience with our ability to get enough numbers to really provide the data that I am confident, given the criteria that the drivers will be adhering to, that we're going to see some really good results, some good data. And I think we'll move the needle, but I just don't know how soon that is. But now's an opportunity to get into the deeper dive segment, where we take a question from one of our listeners. Today's deeper dive question is brought to you by National Transportation Institute, another company that you're really closely familiar with, good friends of ours. And the deeper dive question is, we support the idea of younger drivers in the industry, but fear our insurance provider won't allow it. You actually just spoke to that. So what would you say to that concern?
So it's a matter of having a conversation with your insurance carrier. And it's also, you have to come up with a plan, of a training plan. We just were at the R&R conference with Newspom, and he said, they have a very extensive training program and mentorship program for their drivers that they're training. a lot of times the drivers that are coming in or that they're training are 18, 19-year-olds, family members, are professional drivers. And all they had to do was have a conversation with their insurance and show them what they're going to do to put those drivers through a finishing program.
So at the end of the day, it's not hopeless. Hang in there. The opportunities are there. And kind of to your point before, I remember this argument where a lot of folks would be concerned that they wouldn't allow, insurance providers wouldn't provide insurance for, underage drivers. But the reality is they were the ones, insurance providers were at the table. Underwriters were at the table in the creation of sort of the construct of what is today that safe driver apprenticeship program. So they're very much aware and said, basically, if we do this, we can get behind it.
Yep, that's exactly right. So, sometimes you might have to push back on your insurance carrier if it's not one of the ones that was at the table. But a lot of them, when they see that argument, then they will comply. And it's not going to be like 100 drivers, right? It's going to be a couple at a time because you have to take them through a long process to train them.
Well, Lindsey, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you joining me. You and Dave are doing amazing work for the industry, and I'm grateful to be part of it.
It's an honor. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks for joining me for another episode of Taking the Higher Road. And stay tuned for the next episode as I'm joined by Tyler Keevy, Chief Operating Officer with Keevy Brothers Trucking. And once again, special thanks to the sponsors of the show. We really appreciate you. If you're interested in being a sponsor or joining me for an interview, please email Jeremy at takingthehigherroad.com. Until next time, thank you for taking the higher road.